Let's do it. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now. I'm Chase Sr. Thank you so much for hanging out here with us. Coming up on the show, you are going to be informed today. And I guarantee you, nobody else is talking about this on YouTube, and that's why you hit that subscribe button right here on Eagles Now for daily shows on the Birds. We're going to break down, dissect, and explain why the Philadelphia Eagles will be a problem for the NFL in 2024. And we're going to compare and analyze problematic data from the 2023 campaign and also compare that to 2022 and take a look at what made the Eagles successful 2 years ago when they made it to the Super Bowl and why they were so bad in 2023. Because the issues here are correctable, and that's why I think Philadelphia is going to be a mightily improved team this upcoming season. Get involved, though, first. If you think the Eagles can represent the NFC in the Super Bowl and get back to the big game in New Orleans, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. If you think this team is flawed and they're going to flounder this year, I want you to comment why. Hopefully we get as many people hitting that thumbs up icon as possible. The clear issue with the 2023 Philadelphia Eagles, in my opinion, and we've talked about this subject matter here on the show, it was blatant. It was obvious. The Eagles were a poorly coached football team, and the data, trends, scheme, the numbers back that up. They were bad. The changes at offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator going into this upcoming season are massive for Philadelphia because the inexperience from Brian Johnson, the offensive coordinator, who had never called plays at the NFL level before, and Sean Desai, the defensive coordinator, who had 1 year of play calling experience, were killer. In 2023, the Eagles led at halftime in 6 of their first 12 games. They got off to slow starts week after week after week. This offense was monotonous. This offense was slow. This offense lacked explosion. And on average, the Eagles were losing by 1 point at halftime in those first 12 games when, funny enough, the Eagles got off to a good start. They started last year 10-1. But there were problematic trends in which the wins kind of covered up. You compare that to what the Eagles did in 2022, the Eagles trailed in just 2 games during that same sample size. And they led by an average of 7.8 points at halftime. That was by far and away number 1 in the NFL. They built up those early leads. They got off to fast and explosive starts. And in the second half, they could rest. They could coast en route to a victory. So offensively and defensively here for the Eagles, because I think both units are going to be able to help each other out, I think the Eagles should be able to start off faster in 2024. They have talent. They're going to be better coached. And in looking at some of this data, they're going to be able to correct some of their flaws. Specifically with the offense, there were so many issues with this offensive unit last year. And for Jalen Hurts, he was not helped out by bad play calling, bad coaching, and a bad offensive system. There was a lack of hot routes when the blitzes were on. There were no sight adjustments to help him out. The Eagles, weirdly enough, with DeAndre Swift balling out when he actually did get carries, did not commit to the run game, especially with the pass game being predictable and struggling. The Eagles were 32nd among 32 teams last year in pre-snap motion, and Brian Johnson was clearly in over his skis. I imagine a lot of you right now already on today's show are in the comment section saying, Nick Sirianni, it's his fault. He's a fraud. Nick Sirianni will not escape blame from me. He is to blame because this was his offensive system, and he should be hit with some of the reasons for why Philadelphia struggled offensively last year. After all, he's an offensive mind, and the lack of adjustments, the lack of creativity, that can be put on Nick Sirianni's plate. More on the Eagles' offensive woes in the first half last year. In 2022, when the Eagles made it to the Super Bowl, they averaged 9.5 air yards per attempt, 2.67 seconds to throw, 30% of their attempts holding the ball for 3+ seconds. They had a 30% pressure rate, and 17% of Jalen Hurts' throws were at or behind the line of scrimmage. You compare that to 2023. 7.5 air yards per attempt, 3.04 seconds to throw, 39% of their attempts holding the ball for 3+ seconds, a 39% pressure rate, and 25% of Jalen Hurts' throws were at or behind the line of scrimmage. I know that's a lot of data, but to summarize those problems, the Eagles threw the ball much shorter despite holding onto the ball longer, and Jalen Hurts was pressured more. And the Eagles' deep pass game, which in 2022 was dominant and explosive with Shane Steichen calling the offense, fell off a cliff. In 2022, 0.44 expected points added per attempt, a 38% success rate on deep throws, 14.9 yards per attempt. In 2023, look at how much the EPA goes down. The success rate went down by 20 points to 18%, and the yards per attempt nearly slashed in half from 14.9 to 8.3. And then the Eagles' passes behind the line of scrimmage. Where was the vertical pass game with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith with Dallas Goedert? In 2022, 20% of the Eagles' passes were behind the line of scrimmage, 6.4 yards per attempt. In 2023, 28% of the passes were behind the line of scrimmage, 5.3 yards per attempt. The Eagles also moved slow on the offensive side of the football. They lacked offensive pace. In 2022, they were the fastest paced offense in the NFL, 25.9 seconds per play in the first half. In 2023, that went up by 4 seconds, 29.7 seconds per play, number 25 in tempo. And that all makes sense now that we think about it, right? Brian Johnson took forever to get play calls in. He took an eternity to relay things from the sideline to the earpiece of Jalen Hurts. And then the Eagles were slow to get to the line. And how often did we see Jason Kelce so frustrated by all of this? I don't think that's going to happen with this man here to my right in Kellen Moore. He is a much better offensive mind. He's much more accomplished and experienced at the NFL level, and I truly believe that Kellen Moore can fix these issues. The Eagles have plenty of talent on offense, and you compare that with the defense helping the offense out more, and then having a better play caller, play designer, and a better offensive scheme, that's partially why the Eagles can take off and take over in 2024. More to get to here on the show as we're only getting started. But if you want a Cooper DeJean shirt, they're available now. Kelly Green and Black at chatsports.com/DeJean. One of the best conversation-starting shirts that you will ever wear. And you can support us here on Philadelphia Eagles Now. We've sent these all across America, so get yours today. chatsports.com/DeJean. From the offense to the defense. Naturally, because of the experience of Vic Fangio and his amount of time at the NFL level, I think the Eagles should drastically improve the defensive unit. These Eagles defensive numbers from 2023 make you want to cover your eyes. If you want to cover your eyes, just listen to me. The Eagles were ranked 31st in the red zone and 30th on third downs. If you don't know, there are 32 teams in the NFL. The pass rush went from ranked first with a league-high 70 sacks in 2022 to 23rd in 2023. And so Philadelphia here has added Bryce Huff. You're hoping Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis can take leaps. Nolan Smith going into a big sophomore campaign. You bring in Devin White. You're better at corner. You bring back C.J. Gardner-Johnson. You have a lot of talent and an experienced defensive coordinator. Bottom line, the Eagles' defense was mind-numbingly bad. Couldn't get off the field on third downs. They could not tackle. It was a bad defensive scheme. I just don't envision how that happens under an experienced defensive coordinator in Vic Fangio. Another topic I want to hit on today's show, and why I think the Eagles will naturally improve this year, is the strength of schedule and the rest advantage, rest disadvantage. Coming off a Super Bowl, the NFL did the Eagles no favors last year. The Eagles had a -6-day net rest edge in 2023. That was tied for 6th worst in the NFL. And there was one game where they had more rest than the opponent. It was the Super Bowl rematch against Kansas City, but the Chiefs were also coming off a bye. And then during that gauntlet against the Buffalo Bills, the 49ers, and the Dallas Cowboys, the Eagles had rest disadvantages in each of those matchups. The Eagles' net rest edge ranking in 2024 is second. That's great news. After a difficult schedule last year, they have the 9th easiest schedule in the NFL, and they also have the number 1 overall year-over-year improvement in strength of schedule of the passing game in teams that they play both offensively and defensively. And you think about that, right? When you make a deep run and you're playing football into February, and then human nature factors in, where emotions factor in, and you lose the Super Bowl in the manner that you lost the Super Bowl, in which you are sad, down, and depressed for a long time, and then you're also tired and beat down, having a rest disadvantage is not ideal coming off that deep run. I hope you enjoyed today's show, because going into training camp, going into the season for Philadelphia, we will continue to provide you with coverage just like this. Want to give a shout out to Warren Sharp of Sharp Football Analysis. His NFL 2024 preview book is out. And in reading that, I was able to come up with all of those trends and stats because this man works diligently to make us smarter football fans. Be sure to subscribe to us here on Eagles Now. You're not getting this content anywhere else, and I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give me a real one down in the comment section.